Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. Today we're going to be doing a transmog rundown of BfA, so you'll see all the big new visual sets you're going to be able to earn once this expansion launches, ranging from the new questing sets all the way to the dungeons, the epic looking PvP stuff, and of course the Uldir raid. Now one interesting aspect of BfA is the Blizzard are ditching class-based sets in favour for raids being comprised of one broad look for each armor class plus tints and a mythic variation. Their thought here is they've spent 21 tiers going through the different class variants, and basically they now want to explore the art style of the raid being the main theme. So what does a bit of Titanic leather look like, or maybe Titanic plate versus say, oh, it's the 22nd version of a warrior. So that's their goal there. Overall it means a bit less visual variation for each raid, but it does mean, at least they say, that they want to deliver a larger number of sets overall. So let's kick the video off with the Kul Tiran leveling gear. Now this stuff is focused on the sea-worn aesthetic of Kul'tiras, mixes in a bunch of maritime elements, even some old god influences with the cloth gear. So let's take a look. And overall, I've got to say I quite like it. Now, I don't want to say that it's realistic, but it looks kind of authentic. It gives us more of a low-key option, which is very welcome, at least looking at my tastes. Just look at, say, what I mogged my Hunter into for all of Legion. It was just some simple-looking dungeon gear that didn't look absurd. Now, one spooky detail is the cloth gear is full of tentacles, so that's some very subtle foreshadowing there, Blizzard. I like how a lot of this gear, though, it gives us good transmog options for mixing and matching with the other more simple armor that's in the game if you want a more believable looking mog. So yeah, a bit different to the norm, but definitely something that I like. With that covered, time for the Zandalari questing gear. Now this stuff's pretty cool, it's packed with color, oozing with style, all about the Zandalari Empire, so let's see what it's like. So to start off, I love the plate and cloth. I mean, hell, they could like pass as bits of tier gear. Yeah, they might look a bit silly in some races, but I do love them. The bursts of color on both of them are great, especially the headpiece and the shoulders on the cloth set. The plate armor looks deliciously savage also, especially with that big headdress. The mail's pretty cool as well, but the leather is perhaps a little bit bland. So that's the gear that we're going to be getting as we level up. Once that's done, though, it's going to be time for the dungeons, so let's take a look at the dungeon gear of Battle for Azeroth, starting off with Kul'tiras. And damn, this stuff is really good. So first, I love the plate gear. It looks pretty darn believable, but at the same time, it's not boring. I especially like the light metal and blue one. There's just something about looking like a big, glorious knight that is, you know what, it's simple, but I really like it. I'm also a fan of just having options that don't involve like crazy animations and glowing effects, so thumbs up for that. Then the leather set is, it's just perfect for me. It's another pirate themed thing. It kind of goes well with the Antor's rogue set, so you know, it's kind of dashing and charming, and it's also vaguely believable as, you know, being something someone would wear, so a big win in my book. And then the cloth set is just full-on old god tentacles. I mean, shit, look at that headpiece. First, that's going to be great for transmog. Second, yeah, subtle foreshadowing, Blizzard. So yeah, overall, I've got to say, big thumbs up on the Kul Tiran dungeon gear. I love it. With that covered, let's take a look at the Zandalari. So the plate for me is not as cool as the questing variant. It's a little bit too high detail in terms of the lines, and that kind of makes it a bit less visually strong to me. I think the helm's really cool though, and that could be a really good addition for transmog. Thankfully though, the Zandalari male dungeon gear is delicious. Big blasts of color, super unique shoulders, and really it's all in the style of the Zandalari Empire, which I love. Their leather dungeon gear is pretty standard for me, not really blowing me away to be honest, and same goes for their cloth dungeon gear. So I'm probably going to have to give this one to the Kul Tirans. Now with that covered, it's time to move up the PvE ladder and talk about the Uldir raid gear. So we still get difficulty based tints and a mythic variant. The only difference is 4 broad sets, 1 for each armor type. So with that said, let's take a look. So starting off with cloth, it's bloody gorgeous, especially the mythic tint. It just looks so evil. Kind of reminds me of like a kind of religious fanatic thing with that really unsettling headpiece, super strong mix of simple colors. Now the other tints are pretty good, especially heroic, but the LFR one's a little bit bland. Then the leather set's okay. It's maybe a bit less flesh than you'd expect from raid gear, so it's a bit of a dud. I guess it also doesn't really feel that Titanic in comparison to the others. Then I love the mail set with the exception of its helm, which is just an odd shape. The shoulders and the rest of the armor are pretty damn cool though. It's one of those ones that feels pretty believable once you remove the helm, which I also like. And then finally we've got the plate one, which I was going to say was really tasty. I was going to say it makes you look like an emotionless robot that dispenses death, but then I looked at the helm and I kind of think it looks like a mixture of Thomas the Tank's face mixed with the Transformer. So that one's a bit dead in the water, but no, as a bit of play, it does the job pretty well. Past that, you know what? Kind of forgettable. We do, however, have wonderful weapon options that kind of redeem this, so I'll cover those later. Overall, though, it's pretty boring. Mythic Cloth is my favorite, and I'm definitely more interested to see what the Ashara and Naga-themed stuff is going to look like for the 8.1 raid. Next, though, let's take a look at the PvP gear. And this is easily my favorite armor in BfA. It totally nails the core of both factions. I think the standout's gotta be the Alliance plate, and like, it's funny, the first tier itself is great, and then the second tier knocks that out of the water, and then the third tier is just stunning. Now, the lion shoulders might be ridiculously large, but I love the detailing that's went into them, and it's just such a cool set. As for the Horde plate, it's pretty cool. It's going for a more scrappy look, though. Doesn't really appeal to me as much. It's a bit more visually noisy, I suppose. Then moving on, the Alliance mail continues to look fantastic for the same reasons as their plate did. Lovely color, great detailing, really nice lines and angles. The Horde set is once again pretty good, but for me, does not come close to the Alliance set. But hey, if you like spikes, then damn, Horde Tier 3 has you covered. Moving on to leather, we see something odd with the Horde set. It starts off looking really sneaky and mean, but by the time we hit the third tier, they've just put so many spikes on it that I feel like it loses its visual identity, which is a pretty common complaint that I would have with a lot of orc-themed sets. Not so for the Alliance, though, who have a bloody fantastic leather set. All three variants look great. Once again, there's a real sleek flow to how the line work is on them. I probably like the silver and blue one the most. And then we've got cloth. And wow, the Alliance cloth looks wonderful. It's got this fantastic visual progression as you move up the tiers. Yeah, it's got this extremely cool Archmage looking setup for the third tier, though it's probably something that's going to look better in a female character because, as always, WoW cloth sets just look a bit silly in big, muscly Warcraft beast men. Then the Horde cloth PvP gear, it's got quite a nasty Warlock feel to it. Pretty good. Once again, though, a bit visually muddy to me. So there you go. That is the main armor of Battle for Azeroth. Uldir is a bit of a dud for me, as is the Horde PvP gear, but I do love the rest of it. Zandalar has got some really welcome questline gear, but for me, Kul'tiras is just crammed with wonderful looking stuff. And finally, we're going to round this off with some of the weapons from Uldir and Warfronts. And the Warfront weapons are just stunning. these are flat out, in my view, the best faction-themed weapons and armor we've got in the game, bar none. I mean, I'd almost say that for the Aspirant gear, but then we look at the Gladiator gear and the other stuff, and it just gets better and better. They're stunning looking. If, like, faction pride is your thing, there is no better expansion to serve that visually than this one. The detailing is just so damn good, and when you match it up with a Warfront armor, you just look so cool. Much of it reminds me of like the old Alliance PvP gear that way back in the day I thought was really cool and I really wanted, but of course, you know, never ended up getting. Anyway, with that, let's take a look at the Uldir weapons. And yeah, wow, if you wanted flashy goodness, turns out it's all been put into the Titan Tech Uldir weapons. We see some super strong colors here, and then these nice glowing effects that are not too overblown. They kind of just make it look like the weapons are kind of purring with energy. I particularly love the Warglaive. It, like, legit looks like it's a science fiction thing. Same goes for the bow and the gun. I mean, hell, the gun is even called a pulse rifle. Yeah, there's basically nothing here that I don't like. They're all thematically strong, and they've actually, what I like is they've got simple but pretty strong silhouettes and clear color palettes, and that makes them look visually stark. So overall, a big thumbs up for the Uldir weapons and armor. And there you go, that's the new gear to get excited about for BfA. There's a lot of stuff here that is to my tastes. I'm pretty sure that a lot of it won't be to a lot of people's tastes, though, especially the stuff that's on the bland side, like, say, the Uldir raid armor, which I'm a little bit disappointed in as well. Definitely am interested to see what happens for Ashara in 8.1. I think that they have a lot to prove in terms of the art that they put out after, you know, stepping away from doing class-based sets. I'm definitely excited to see if they do prove that, though. I just think Uldir is a little bit of a misstep, honestly, kind of boring. As for the rest of it, though, Warfronts are awesome, the weapons are awesome. I think there will be lots of great looks in this expansion. So there you go, that is a preview of the gear and my thoughts on it. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you next time.